The galaxy was broken. Worlds that once shone with life were now empty, silent, and covered in the scars of war. Daniel moved slowly across the cracked surface of a ruined planet. His boots crunched over dust and shattered metal. The air was heavy, filled with the faint smell of burning long past. He was a human mercenary, traveling alone. No crew, no home. Only his rifle, his armor, and the quiet hum of the small scanner on his wrist. He had come here looking for salvage. Old tech, maybe weapons, anything he could sell to buy fuel for his ship. This planet had been forgotten after the last battles. That made it dangerous, but also valuable. As he searched through the wreckage of a collapsed tower, a sound broke the silence. It was not the creak of metal or the wind moving through broken walls. It was a voice, soft, almost a whisper, yet filled with something Daniel could not name. He froze, his hand moving to the grip of his weapon. Who is there? His voice was sharp, trained to carry authority. No answer came at first, only the slow, cold wind. Then, the voice returned, clearer this time, a woman's voice, human. I will bear you strong children if you save my clan. Daniel turned quickly, scanning the shadows. His heart was steady, but his mind raced. Was this some kind of trick? A trap? From the dark ruins ahead, a shape began to appear. Tall, graceful, and not human. She stepped forward slowly. Her skin was silver, almost shining against the dull gray of the ruins. Her eyes glowed faintly, like two pale stars. She wore a torn battlesuit, marked with symbols Daniel did not know. She looked both fierce and fragile. Daniel kept his weapon ready. What did you just say? She stopped a few steps away. Her gaze did not leave his. Her voice trembled, yet carried strength. You are human. You are strong. If you help me, my clan will live. In return, I will give you a bond that no other can. I will bear you strong children. Daniel blinked. This was madness. Who speaks like that to a stranger? Was it some alien custom? Or desperation so deep it tore away all pride? He had fought in many wars. He had seen people beg for help, but never like this. Why me? He asked. Because you are here, she said. And because you are human. Your kind does not abandon those who cannot fight alone. Daniel almost laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You don't know humans as well as you think. She stepped closer, her eyes locking on his. I know enough. Will you help me? Before Daniel could answer, she looked over her shoulder, her body tense. They are coming. Who? Hunters? She said. They kill my people. They will kill me. And if they find my clan, they will take the children and sell them to those who make soldiers from flesh. The words were cold, but the fear in her voice was real. Daniel's instincts told him to leave, to walk away before he got pulled into something deadly. He was one man. Her problems were not his, but another part of him, the part that had once worn the uniform of Earth's forces, knew he could not just turn his back. How many hunters? He asked. Enough to kill us both, she said without hesitation. Unless you help me. In the distance, the faint sound of engines began to hum. It grew louder, echoing off the hollow remains of the city. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle. She reached out and touched his arm. Her hand was cool against the metal of his armor. If you walk away, my people will die. I will die. You are my last hope. The sound of blaster fire cracked through the air. Sharp, violent, and too close. Daniel looked at her once more. She stood tall, her face calm, but her eyes pleading. He had not planned to be anyone's savior. He had come for salvage, not for war. But now, with the hunters closing in, there was no turning back without leaving her to die. Stay close, he said finally. She gave a short nod, a flicker of relief crossing her face. Daniel led the way, moving quickly through the broken streets. The blaster fire grew louder, chasing them like a storm. Above them, shadows passed between the shattered towers. The hunters were here. They reached a narrow passage between two fallen walls. Daniel stopped, scanning the area. The alien woman, still holding her weapon, kept her eyes on him. "You do not trust me," she said. "I trust no one," Daniel replied. "But right now, I trust your enemies even less." A burst of light exploded nearby, sending shards of stone flying. The hunters were close. Too close. Daniel pulled her behind cover, his mind already searching for a way out. The passage ahead twisted into darkness. It could lead to safety, or it could be a dead end. The woman's breathing was steady, but he could see the tension in her stance. "What is your name?" he asked quickly. "Sirai." "All right, Sirai," Daniel said. "If we survive this, you can explain everything. But for now, keep moving when I say move." Another explosion shook the ground. The hunters' voices carried through the air, speaking in a language Daniel did not understand. He took a deep breath, then motioned for her to follow. The two of them slipped into the shadows, the noise of battle chasing them through the ruins. The encounter had begun, and Daniel knew this was no longer just about salvage. This was about survival, and perhaps something far more dangerous. The ruins swallowed them as they ran. Dust fell from broken ceilings. The sound of engines faded behind them, replaced by the soft echoes of their footsteps. Daniel kept his rifle up, scanning every corner. Sirai moved silently beside him, her tall frame graceful, even in the cramped passage. Her weapon looked primitive compared to his, a long spear with faint blue light running along its edges. Yet she held it like someone who had used it many times in battle. They pushed deeper underground until the air grew colder. Daniel stopped, listening. No engines now, no voices, only silence. Sirai touched the wall, then looked at him. "We are safe here, for now." Daniel lowered his rifle slightly. "Safe is not a word I believe in." "You should," she said quietly. "Because soon, you will be in a place where even the hunters cannot go." She moved ahead, her steps sure, as if she knew these tunnels well. Daniel followed, his eyes adjusting to the dim light. After several minutes, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. The air was warmer here, carrying the faint scent of burning wood. At the far side, Daniel saw movement. Small figures huddled together, their glowing eyes reflecting the light from a small fire. Children. Sirai walked toward them. The children stood, their faces breaking into shy smiles. She knelt, speaking to them in her own language, her voice gentle. The fear in their eyes eased. Daniel stayed back, his gaze sweeping the cavern. These were not soldiers. They were survivors, hiding from a galaxy that wanted them gone. When Sarai returned, her expression was calm but heavy. "These are all that remain of my clan. The others are gone, taken or killed." Daniel studied her. "And you are the only one left to protect them." "I am the last warrior," she said. "But even I cannot fight forever. We have been running for months. The hunters track us across worlds. They will not stop until every child is dead or captured." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled as she spoke. Daniel's mind worked quickly. This was worse than he thought. Whoever these hunters were, they had resources, they had skill, and they were determined. "Why do they want your people?" he asked. Sarai's eyes darkened. "Our blood, our strength. My kind was born for war, shaped by the old stars. We are faster than most, stronger. The hunters sell our kind to those who create soldiers from stolen lives." Daniel understood. Now, this was not just about survival. It was about stopping something vile. "And the offer you made earlier," he said carefully. "That is part of your people's customs." She looked straight at him. "Yes. When a warrior's life is bound to another, they offer to share blood and children. It is a vow of trust, of alliance. I do not speak it lightly." Daniel felt the weight of her words. He had seen cultures across the galaxy, each with their own ways of showing loyalty. But this was different. This was not a bargain. It was a promise that carried the future of an entire species. Before he could respond, the sound of distant machinery echoed through the tunnels. Sarai's head snapped toward the entrance. "They are coming again," she said. Daniel raised his rifle. "Then we need to move." Now Sarai turned to the children, giving quick instructions. They gathered small bags and moved with practiced speed. These were children who had learned to pack and run without question. As they prepared to leave, Daniel caught Sarai's gaze. There was no fear in her eyes now, only determination. "You could leave," she said. "You could walk away. Right now, it is not your fight." Daniel looked at the children, then back at her. "It wasn't my fight, but it is now." A faint smile touched her lips. "Then stay close, human." The hum of engines grew louder. Shadows moved at the tunnel entrance. Daniel stepped forward, his finger on the trigger. Whatever came next, he was ready. And for the first time in a long while, he felt like he was fighting for something that mattered. The hum of engines grew into a roar. Dust rained from the ceiling as the sound of heavy boots echoed through the tunnels. Daniel moved to the front, his rifle aimed at the darkness. "How many exits?" "Only one that is safe," Sarai said. "Follow me, but stay ready." The children huddled together, their glowing eyes wide. Sarai gave them a quick signal, and they began moving in a single line. Following her into the narrow passage, the first blaster shot came without warning. Blue light cut through the darkness, striking the wall inches from Daniel's head. He spun, firing back. The shot hit one of the hunters, sending the armored figure crashing to the ground. More shadows appeared behind it. Tall, insect-like aliens, with curved armor and glowing weapons. Their steps were heavy, their voices clicking in a language Daniel could not understand. "Keep moving," Daniel shouted. The passage was tight, forcing him to walk backward as he fired. Every shot lit the tunnel in sharp flashes. The hunters advanced without fear, their armor absorbing some of the blasts. Sarai moved with deadly precision. Her spear's blue edge cut through armor as if it were cloth. She struck fast, then pulled back, never letting the hunters surround. Her .1 hunter leaped toward the children. Daniel's shot dropped at mid-air. Another tried to grab Sarai from behind, but she spun, driving her spear straight through its chest. They reached an opening ahead. The tunnel widened into a half-collapsed marketplace from long ago. Rusted stalls and broken signs cast long shadows. "Stay low," Daniel ordered. A blaster bolt struck a metal beam above, sending sparks raining down. The hunters were spreading out, trying to trap them. Sarai glanced upward. "They will try to cut us off from above. Not if we move fast." Daniel pointed toward a collapsed bridge. "There, cover me." He dashed forward, sliding behind. A fallen wall for cover. From his position, he could see the hunters moving in a half-circle. He fired in quick bursts, forcing them to retreat a few steps. Sarai led the children across the bridge's remains, moving quickly but keeping them close. One child stumbled, dropping a small bag. Without hesitation, Sarai turned back to help, blocking an incoming strike with her spear. Daniel saw the hunter raising its weapon at her. He took the shot, the blast hitting the alien square in the head. The air grew hotter. Daniel looked back and saw a glow spreading from deeper in the tunnels. "They set charges," he said sharply. "They're going to burn us out." Sarai's eyes narrowed. "Then we run now." They pushed forward, dodging falling debris as explosions shook the ground. Fire chased them, licking at the walls, filling the air with smoke. Daniel grabbed the smallest child, carrying her under one arm, while keeping his rifle up with the other. Sarai stayed at the rear, her strikes slowing the hunters who tried to follow. At last, they burst into the open night. The sky above was black, filled with distant lightning from an approaching storm. But there was no time to rest. The hunters poured from the tunnel behind them, straight to the canyon. Sarai shouted, "We can lose them in the cliffs." They sprinted across the broken ground, Plasma bolts tore through the air, striking the dirt near their feet. Daniel fired over his shoulder, hitting one hunter and forcing the others to scatter. The canyon loomed ahead, its jagged walls lit by flashes of lightning. Daniel and Sarai drove the children into its shadows, the sound of pursuit close behind. When they finally stopped, breaths heavy, the fire in the distance painted the sky orange. The hunters had been slowed, but not stopped. Sarai looked at Daniel, her voice low but steady. "You fight like one of us." Daniel shook his head. "No, I fight because I have to." She gave a small nod. "That is what makes you dangerous." For a brief moment, the storm's wind drowned out every sound. But Daniel knew this was far from over. The hunters would be back, and next time they would come with more than fire. The storm rolled over the canyon, the wind howling through the jagged cliffs. Lightning lit the sky in sharp flashes, revealing the hunted faces of those huddled in the shadows. Daniel crouched near the entrance, keeping his rifle ready. The children were gathered in a small hollow between the rocks, their eyes wide but silent. Sarai knelt among them, checking each one for injuries. Her voice was calm, her hands gentle, and even in the harsh light, Daniel could see the way they trusted her. Completely. When she finally rose, she walked to him. Her silver skin caught the flicker of distant lightning, making her look like something carved from the stars. "They are tired," she said softly, "but they are alive." Daniel nodded. "That's more than we had an hour ago." She studied his face for a moment. "You did not have to come this far for us." He looked away, scanning the canyon floor. "If I had left, I'd be hearing the sound of blasters in my head for the rest of my life." Sarai tilted her head slightly. "Is that how humans think? That saving strangers is worth risking your own life?" Daniel gave a faint, tired smile. "Some of us." The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain. Sarai stepped closer, her voice lower now. "Where I come from, bonds are forged in fire and danger. You have already walked through both with me." Her words held a weight he could feel, but he wasn't sure if it was the culture she came from or something more personal. "What happens when a bond is forged?" he asked. Her eyes met his, without flinching. "It means the two fight as one, live as one. If they survive long enough, they raise children who carry the strength of both. It is a promise, one that cannot be broken." Daniel held her gaze for a moment before looking back at the children. "You're asking for more than just help in a fight." Sarai did not answer right away. Instead, she stepped past him, standing at the canyon's edge, watching the storm. The wind pulled at her hair, sending silver strands across her face. When she spoke again, her voice carried over the wind. "The hunters will return. They will not stop. If you choose to stay, you will be hunted too. Your name will be marked across systems as an enemy to them." "Wouldn't be the first time," Daniel said quietly. She turned to face him again, and for the first time since they met, there was a faint softness in her eyes. "You are unlike any human I have met. You fight with your hands, but also with your heart." Daniel felt something shift inside him. It had been years since anyone had spoken to him like that. Years since he had allowed himself to feel anything beyond survival. But before he could speak, the sound of movement echoed through the canyon. Both of them turned, weapons raised. Shadows flickered in the distance. Sarai stepped beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "It is not the hunters," she said after a moment, relaxing slightly. "The rock here speaks when the wind changes." Daniel lowered his rifle, but did not step away. "You sound like you've lived here your whole life." "I was born far from this place," she said. "But for my people, home is not a planet. Home is the ones you protect." The words lingered in the air between them. They stayed there for a long moment, side by side, watching the storm move across the sky. The rain finally came, a soft curtain of water washing the dust from the rocks. The children stirred in their sleep, curling closer together. Daniel shifted his stance, feeling the ache in his muscles. We should rest while we can. Tomorrow will be worse. Sirai nodded, though her eyes stayed on him a moment longer before she turned away. I will. Take first watch. You need your strength. Daniel hesitated, then allowed himself to sit near the small shelter where the children slept. His mind was alert, but his eyes kept drifting to Sarai's silhouette against the storm. He knew they were still in danger. He knew the hunters were only days, maybe hours, behind. But for the first time since he landed on this planet, the thought of leaving had faded completely. The bond between them was forming. He could feel it, and he knew that once it was there, it would not break easily. Far above, lightning split the sky. Somewhere in the darkness, the hunters prepared for their next strike. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the canyon floor slick and dark. The storm clouds drifted away, but Daniel felt no relief. Storms passed. Hunters did not. Sirai moved among the children, handing out strips of dried food from a small leather pouch. The little ones ate quickly, their faces still pale from the night's cold. Daniel stood near the canyon's mouth, scanning the horizon through his scope. No movement yet. No dust trails from enemy ships. But his instincts told him the danger was close. We cannot stay here another night, Sirai said, joining him. I know, Daniel replied, but moving this many people in daylight makes us easier to track. Her gaze hardened. If we wait, we will be trapped. Before Daniel could answer, a sharp clatter echoed from the rocks behind them. He turned quickly. Rifle raised, an older male of Sarai's kind stepped into view. His armor was dented, his eyes deep-set and tired. Daniel had seen him before, watching silently at the edge of the group. Now, he walked toward them with an uneasy expression. Sarai's tone was cautious. Irith, what is it? The old warrior's eyes flicked to Daniel before settling back on Sarai. We are not safe here. The hunters know this canyon. They will find us before the sun sets. That is why we are leaving, Sirai said. Irith hesitated, then took a step closer. There is another way, a path through the valley. But you must trust me to lead. Daniel studied the man's face. There was something in his voice, something too quick, too certain. And how do you know the hunters won't be waiting there? Irith's jaw tightened. Because they will not. I have spoken to them. The words hit like a silent shot. Sirai stiffened. You spoke to them. I did it for the clan, Irith said quickly. They promised safety if we gave them the children. They said no one else would be harmed. Daniel stepped forward, anger sparking in his chest. You sold them out. Irith's gaze dropped. I am old. I have seen too many die. I cannot watch the children suffer in fear any longer. The hunters will give them life. Sarai's voice was cold now. They will give them chains. The air in the canyon felt heavier. The children, sensing the tension, huddled closer together. Daniel's rifle stayed steady in his hands. Where are they? Irith swallowed. Not far. They follow at a distance, waiting for my signal. As if on cue, a deep hum rolled through the air. The sound of engines. Daniel moved to the edge of the canyon and looked out. Dark shapes moved along the ridge, in the distance, their armor catching the sunlight. The hunters were here. Siri turned to Irith, her voice trembling with controlled rage. You have brought death to us all. I did what I thought was right, he said, though. His voice cracked. The first blaster shot screamed through the air, striking the rock above them. Dust and stone rained down. The children cried out. Daniel grabbed Sarai's arm. We move now. But Irith stepped forward, holding up his hands as if to stop them. They will not fire if we give them what they want. Siri's eyes flashed, with fury, over my dead body. She moved faster than Daniel expected. In one motion, she disarmed Irith, sending his weapon clattering to the ground. The old warrior stumbled back, his face pale. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Take the children. Into the cliffs. I'll hold them off." Sirai's eyes met his for a heartbeat. She nodded, then turned, calling the children to her. They disappeared into the shadows of the canyon walls. The hunters were advancing now, their weapons glowing with deadly light. Daniel took position behind a rock outcrop, his finger tightening on the trigger. The betrayal still burned in his mind. They had been hunted for days, but he hadn't expected the danger to come from inside the clan. Now, there was no time to dwell on it. The enemy was here, and the fight was coming fast. The hunters came fast. Black armor glinted under the sun as they spread across the canyon ridge, rifles raised. The air crackled with the charge of plasma weapons. Daniel braced against the rock outcrop, sighting down his rifle. The first shot tore through the closest hunter's visor, dropping the alien before it could fire. The others responded instantly, their return fire slamming into the rocks around him, sending shards of stone into his face. Sirai appeared beside him, her spear glowing with a fierce blue light. She had left the children hidden deep in the cliffs. Now, she stood ready, her eyes fixed on the advancing enemy. "They will push us from both sides," she said quickly. "Then we hit them before they can close the trap," Daniel replied. The ground shook as explosions ripped through the canyon floor. Dust filled the air, stinging his eyes. Daniel coughed, firing blindly toward the flashes of light. He heard one hunter scream as the shot found its target. Sirai moved like lightning, closing the distance to an advancing soldier. Her spear cut through the alien's chest plate, sparks flying. She spun, striking another in the leg, then drove the weapon up through its throat. Daniel dropped two more with precise bursts, his movements quick and controlled. But for every hunter they killed, more seemed to appear on the ridge. "They're trying to pin us," Daniel shouted. "Not if we break their line," Sirai answered, already sprinting toward the nearest rock formation. Daniel followed, covering her with rapid fire. Plasma bolts screamed past him, one grazing his shoulder plate and sending a sharp jolt of pain through his arm. He pushed on, ignoring it. They reached the cover of the rocks, the enemy closing in. Sirai pressed her back to the stone, catching her breath for a moment. Blood trickled down her arm from a burn on her shoulder, but she didn't seem to notice. Daniel checked his ammo, running low. "Then we make every shot count," she said. They moved together, their attacks perfectly timed. Daniel would draw the enemy's fire, forcing them to expose themselves. Sirai would strike from the side, her spear slicing through armor with precision. The hunters hesitated now, wary of the deadly rhythm between the two fighters. But then, a deep, mechanical hum filled the air. Daniel looked up and saw it, a gunship descending into the canyon, its engines kicking up a storm of dust and debris. Heavy cannons swiveled toward them. Down. Daniel pulled Sirai behind a boulder as the first volley slammed into the ground, sending rock and dirt flying in all directions. "We can't fight that thing head-on," he said. Sirai's gaze flicked toward the gunship's underbelly. "We do not need to. We only need to make it blind." Before Daniel could stop her, she broke from cover, sprinting across the open ground. The gunship's cannons tracked her instantly. Daniel cursed and fired at the gunners, forcing them to duck for cover. Sirai leaped onto a low ledge, then higher, using the canyon wall as a ladder. With a powerful jump, she landed on the ship's wing. The pilot tried to shake her off, but she drove her spear deep into the housing of the nearest cannon. Sparks erupted as the weapon went dead. Daniel took the opportunity to pick off the hunters, who had been using the ship as cover. One by one, they fell. The gunship swerved, slamming into the canyon wall. Sirai leaped free, landing hard but rolling to her feet. The crippled craft spun, its engines screaming before it crashed into the canyon floor in a ball of fire. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of flames and the distant sound of boots retreating. Daniel lowered his rifle slowly. The hunters were pulling back, For now, Sarai walked toward him, her breathing heavy. Her armor was scorched, her hair dusted with ash, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. "They will return," she said. Daniel nodded. "And when they do, we'll be ready." He didn't say it out loud, but he knew the truth. That fight had nearly cost them both their lives. The next one could be worse. Still, as they made their way back to the hidden children, there was a strange calm in him. He had fought many battles, but never like this, never for something that mattered so deeply. The flames of the wrecked gunship still glowed faintly in the distance when Daniel and Sarai returned to the children's hiding place. The little ones rushed to her, clinging to her arms and legs, their glowing eyes wide with relief. "They are safe," Sarai told them softly. "Thanks to him." She glanced toward Daniel. He gave a short nod, not used to gratitude. But the warmth in their faces stirred something in him. The clan spent the rest of the day moving deeper into the cliffs, to a place Sarai called the Moon Hollow. It was a hidden valley, shielded from the skies, with a stream running through the rocks and tall plants swaying in the wind. Here, the hunters could not easily track them. When the children finally slept, Sarai and Daniel stood near the edge of the valley, looking up at the stars between the cliff walls. The night was calm, the air cool and clean. "You could leave now," Sarai said quietly. "You have done more than I could ask." Daniel looked at her, then back at the sky. "I could, but I won't." Her voice was softer now. "Why?" He took a moment to answer. "Because I've been running my whole life. From wars, from people, from anything that might matter. But here, this matters." She studied him in silence, the silver of her skin reflecting the starlight. "When my people choose a bond, it is for life. We fight together. We live together. We raise the next generation together. You know what I offered you when we first met?" Daniel remembered her words in the ruins, strange, bold, and desperate. "You said you'd bear me strong children if I saved your clan." Her eyes held his. "I meant it, not only because of our customs, because I see the way you fight and the way you protect. You have a warrior's strength and a heart I can trust." For a long moment, they simply stood there, the wind whispering between the cliffs. Daniel had never imagined his life leading to this moment. A human mercenary, standing on an alien world, being offered not just love, but a future that would shape the survival of an entire species. He stepped closer. "If I stay, I don't stay as a soldier. I stay as part of this." A faint smile touched her lips. "Then you are no longer a stranger." In the distance, the night sky came alive with a faint ribbon of light, the system's twin moons rising together. Sarai's people believed it was a sign of renewal, a promise from the old stars. Daniel didn't believe in signs, but as Sarai's hand found his, fingers curling firmly around his, he thought maybe some promises were worth keeping. Far above, the galaxy stretched on, vast and dangerous. The hunters would come again. New battles would be fought. But here, in the quiet of the Moon Hollow, a human and the last warrior of her kind stood together, not as allies of convenience, but as something far stronger. And in that bond, Daniel knew humanity had just left its mark on another corner of the stars.